Trinidad Chambliss is staying home at Ole Miss, but that doesn't necessarily mean he'll be coming back to play. We will explain.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now it is the #1 sports podcast network in the world. That's all because of you guys. Thank you very much. On today's show, we're talking about Trinidad Chambliss inking a new deal with the Ole Miss Rebels, effectively ending all the speculation of him going to LSU. But the story doesn't necessarily end there. This waiver still has to go through the NCAA. And as Rebel fans know too well, that process can bring plenty of anxiety. We'll explain what to expect and why it isn't a done deal just yet. We'll also take a look at where Ole Miss stands with Kewan Lacy. Spoiler alert, it's very good. And what that means for the offense moving forward. And finally, we will turn our attention to the Fiesta Bowl and break down the challenge that is facing Ole Miss against a talented Miami team. All of this and more on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. And a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make this show what it is, your team every day. And I did not change that. Trinidad Chambliss re-upped with the Ole Miss Rebels, signed an NIL deal. He is going to come back to Ole Miss if his waiver gets accepted. Now, make no mistake, this is leading off the podcast. This is huge news because if he comes back to Ole Miss next year, he is a leading Heisman Trophy candidate if his waiver gets accepted. We talked about back during the season when nobody else was saying, when everybody else was pretending this was a Diego Pavia type thing. I was like, no, this is just him applying for a 6th year of eligibility the same way that people did 15 years ago. This is a medical hardship case. And we found out a little bit later on that that case stems from the fact that he had some respiratory problems and mono or something like that, ended up having to get his tonsils taken out. That cost a whole season. Ole Miss is applying on Trinidad's behalf for a waiver for that 6th year with 91 pages of documentation. At first, it was reported, and it was reported in multiple spots, that the NCAA was not likely to grant that waiver, and they were kind of dragging their feet. I genuinely think, this is just my opinion, that the NCAA didn't want Trinidad Chambliss going to LSU. It didn't want that to happen. They didn't want the optics of what was going on in Baton Rouge to continue and be amplified by getting a Kewan Lacy and a Trinidad Chambliss and those guys because of what is going on. I genuinely believe that is the case. But now, since he has inked an NIL deal with Ole Miss and he is not going anywhere, we'll see if this happens and he is able to get that waiver. Just in case, he has retained the services of renowned NCAA fighter. I guess we can put him in that category, NCAA fighter, Tom Mars, who is a Badger. If all the Ole Miss fans that remember when Tom Mars was retained by Houston Nutt, how he went after Ole Miss and how he was essentially a bulldog, no pun intended. But Tom Mars is doing the same thing now on Trinidad's behalf. And I think I saw some kind of tweet yesterday where Tom Mars is like, oh, you hated me for what I did before. You love me what I'm doing now. And you hate that I'm putting this. No, we only like you if you're doing our interest. All the other stuff we don't care about. This isn't a personal thing. It is just do what you're supposed to do for our interest, and that's all we care about. Trinidad Chambliss would be in our interest. And if you look at him, seriously, in 2026, if Trinidad Chambliss is back, he is the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. Ole Miss is a top 5 team. Everything's in place for Ole Miss to go on another run. Sure, you're going to lose some wide receivers. I think Deshaun Stribling could be gone. I think Trey Wallace could be gone. And there could be some transfers like Winnie Watkins that head out the door as well. But one thing that I'm looking forward to seeing, I want to see Caleb Cunningham play in an expanded role. He got to Ole Miss late, was a little bit behind the 8 ball, but he was able to make a catch, and you could see the talent. He is somebody that can line up and be a 1-for-1 spot for Deshaun Stribling. Period. You have Deuce Alexander, who could go, who could not go. I've heard rumors both ways on that. I think Winston Watkins is gone. He was one, if you remember correctly, whenever Lane was campaigning for coaching to the playoffs, he was one of the players that was kind of gotten on his side. So I don't know the numbers going to LSU are going to be very high, but what I do know is that it's not going to include Trinidad Chambliss, and it's looking like it's not going to include Kewan Lacy. It's a bad day for LSU because everybody that assumed that all of these great players were heading that direction, that doesn't look like it's the case. Trinidad Chambliss, though, if he gets his waiver, which there were reports yesterday, I don't know if it was Dellinger or Pete Thamel or those guys, it was in the national sphere, said that they feel pretty good about getting the waiver, and that's the Chambliss family feeling pretty good getting the waiver. Tom Maher's part of it central to his argument is not granting the year of eligibility to Trinidad Chambliss would cause irreparable harm and cost him millions of dollars. Now there's an exact number that they would cost them. This signing could be a little bit of a PR stunt to get the waiver, but all it does is just going to ensure that Trinidad Chambliss ends up at Ole Miss. He's a really good quarterback, as everybody is seeing. And his play, the 3 plays in a row stretch at the start of the 4th quarter against the Georgia Bulldogs, I don't think any Ole Miss fan will forget. It is one of those moments that you're like, man, I know exactly where I was when that happened. There's very few of those events that happen in Ole Miss's history to just stands out, just burns those powerful memories into your soul. And that start of that 4th quarter with the 3 scrambles leading to a 4-yard shovel pass type thing to Kewan Lacy. Then the next pass was all the Archie Manning scramble, first down, Kewan Lacy, and then the deep pass to Trey Wallace. Trinidad Chambliss is pretty close to cementing himself as the best quarterback that has ever played at Ole Miss. 2 wins away. If he wins those 2 games against the Miami Hurricanes and the winner of Oregon and Indiana, I don't know if there's any argument that Trinidad is the best quarterback that Ole Miss has ever had. Ever had. I'm not saying he's the best NFL scout. I'm not saying he's the best runner. He's the best quarterback. A position currently held by Eli Manning, by the way. But Trinidad taking care of things. If he can get the win against the Miami Hurricanes, first of all, if he gets the win against the Miami Hurricanes, I'm likely heading down to Miami for the national championship game, working through my parent company to get a media credential for the game, have backups in place. I will find a way to catch the bullet train and get down to Miami. But Ole Miss needs to take care of business Thursday night first. It's going to be a very, very big deal if Ole Miss can pull off what we all assume that they can pull off. If we're going to be real about it, what they can pull off. So we'll see how it looks. That's a nasty defensive line that Trinidad is going to go up against in this Miami game. That front 7 for Miami is real. And just like I said back in August, Ole Miss will go as far as the front 7 will take them. That is absolutely the case in this game. Mark Fletcher is going to be a major key to see what could happen. Anyway, Trinidad's waiver has become front and center, of course, after he has signed an NIL deal. But Ole Miss is really trending with Kewan Lacy right now, and it looks like they will get it over the finish line. Heck, they might already by the time you're watching this. We will talk about all of that next. Let's be real. Managing your finances can feel overwhelming between subscriptions you forgot about, bills that keep going up, and trying to figure out where all your money actually goes each month. It's easy to feel like you are losing control. And who has the time to track every transaction or hunt down hidden fees? That is where Rocket Money comes in, the personal finance app that helps you take control. It finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors spending, and of course helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. I was shocked when Rocket Money showed me I was paying for an extra Netflix account that I completely had forgotten about. It has already saved me money. I love how it tracks all of my subscriptions and lets me cancel them right in the app with just a few taps. No more hunting down customer service numbers. You can set budgets and goals, get personalized insights, and receive real-time alerts for large transactions, upcoming bills, and low balances. It even consolidates your checking, savings, loans, and investments into a single dashboard so you get a clear view of your entire financial picture. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join rocketmoney.com/locked-on. That's rocketmoney.com/locked-on. rocketmoney.com/locked-on. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to and give it a 5-star review. Costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keep all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network, period. That's pretty cool, and it's all because of you. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Ole Miss with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 per month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemmiss.supercast.com or check out the link down in the show notes to learn more. All right, so the first thing in the morning, you had the flag tweet that Pete Golding did for Trinidad at about 3 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And then a little bit later on, you started to hear rumors from 247 and On3 and 365 and all those guys that Kewan Lacy is nearing the finish line. And by the time you watch this, it may already be official, okay? I don't know if and when it will be official, but if you want to believe the reporting of people that go out for the breaking news type stuff, they think it is either there or it's almost there. That's the point right now. Kewan Lacy, best running back in college football. He would have won the Doak Walker Award if his head coach would have promoted him in November instead of making it all about himself. Kewan Lacy has 1,600 yards rushing, about 24 touchdowns, something like that as well. A weapon in the pass game, either through pass pro or as a receiver. He's a clutch all-around running back. And even though he is at a non-premium position, he is he's entrenched value upon himself in that position because of the way he's played it this year. I'm very excited because if he comes back next year and they get it over the finish line and he comes back, it's really similar to what it was in 2022. One thing that's kind of funny, okay, and maybe funny is not the right word, but after Matt Corral took the Ole Miss team to the Sugar Bowl in 2021, and all of those players graduated, everybody knew that 2022 was going to be a rebuild, and Ole Miss attacked the transfer portal for really the first time. The first really big name piece that they got was Zach Evans, if everybody remembers that. Zach Evans completely showed out, and they got a 3-star running back out of Pack Road, Alabama, and Quinshon Judkins, and Ole Miss was a running team, like 70% run that season for what they did. And Quinshon ran for about 1,600 yards, and we were like, man, we will never see a season like this again. This is crazy. This is nuts. Fast forward to 2025, and Kewan Lacy is about 613 all-purpose yards at the moment. He has 23 touchdowns. He's just a machine. He is a red zone weapon. The way he can twist and contort his body to make it smaller, to get through small gaps, to gain yards and fall forward, impressive. My point is, this is a big get for Ole Miss, and perception-wise, it's a huge get. Because for better or worse, the perception going into this, and this is largely because they were the loudest voice in the early parts of the scenario, was that Trinidad and Kewan Lacy and all these players, 10 to 12 players, were going to travel down to Baton Rouge. And not only is that not going to be the case, it might be one or two heading down to Baton Rouge. The number seems to go smaller and smaller with every day that goes by for the Ole Miss Rebels. And Kewan Lacy was at the top of the list of wants. Make no mistake, they have tried to pre-portal Kewan Lacy like mad since October. When Lane Kiffin knew what he was going to do, all of a sudden you started seeing Lane Kiffin pop up whenever Kewan did the belt thing, and there was the whole thing where Kiffin took his belt off so Kewan could do the belt thing, so they develop a relationship, and he was on the Pat McAfee show, and all of that. You could tell he was being recruited. But it didn't work. It didn't work at all, apparently. Pete Golding and all this run that has happened, the Frank Wilson must have hit it off pretty well with Kewan Lacy as well. This backfield seems to be in pretty good shape. And you're going to lose Damian Thomas. You're going to lose Logan Diggs. So you will have to bring players in. But with Shakai Mills-Knight, with the other guys that are available, with Demarius Yates, the true freshman that is coming in, this running back room feels like it's going to be fine. And the big piece is Kewan Lacy, because you stop that narrative of the, hey, go to LSU from Ole Miss because that's the normal step. They tried to normalize that to make what Lane did less offensive, essentially, and that just wasn't the case. And we'll see how it ends up. I mean, they're going to win games in Baton Rouge, but they're not going to win games with Kewan Lacy, apparently, because according to Darby McCraney and 247 Sports and On 3 and all those, it's either close to happening or it's already happened. I can't confirm anything on that. All I know is what the Ole Miss football program would look like when and if it happens. And that's a pretty good place to be in. They're going to be all right. And whoever is playing quarterback, whether Trinidad or otherwise, this team is going to be pretty good. Now, one thing that I'm excited to see is if Trinidad gets the waiver and you get somebody like Deuce Knight and say, hey, watch him for 1 year. Next year, this is your group. This is your team next year. But look at the way he operates. Look at the way he prepares for games. Look at the way he does 4-minute offense and red zone. All of these very specific things. Pay attention to that, because you have every skill that the combine's just going to drool over. You just need to learn how to play quarterback at a high level. And if you watch this guy and what he does, you can head down that road. That is something that I am looking forward to potentially for 2026, but obviously you would need the waiver for Trinidad and you would need Deuce Knight to come on over as well. In our final segment, let's turn our attention to the Fiesta Bowl and the Miami Hurricanes one more time before Thursday. It's not exactly one more time, but we're getting to our last times. We'll break down what Ole Miss needs to do and what you should be watching for. That's coming up next. All right, guys, Fiesta Bowl time, Fiesta Bowl conversation. Miami, excellent team. And counteracting a pass rush like that, Miami's defensive front reminds me very much. It's very close to what Oklahoma has going on. And if you remember what Ole Miss did in the Oklahoma game, they actually played slow in that game because the ends and all that were in such a way that the coaches were worried about the other team picking up on your tendencies because Oklahoma is so well prepared. Ole Miss was able to get around the helmet communication by waiting until the 15-second mark to, get forward and snap the ball. So that's interesting, but I don't think this defense is quite the same way, or at least I haven't heard that. I am curious to see exactly what tempo would look like against this team. I know when Ohio State went hurry up, no huddle, all of a sudden Miami had trouble stopping them. What does it look like whenever they have to face that the whole game? I don't know. Diego Pounds, left tackle for Ole Miss, has not given up a sack all season. Ole Miss has to deal with two of the best rush ends in the entire country in this game. You have to avoid 2nd and 15, 2nd and 17. You have to avoid that. So that'll be important. And against Georgia, if you look at the film guy, Ole Miss was a monster at getting like 2nd and 2s. They were really good at getting 8 yards on first down. And that's interesting because then when you have short yardage, you can hunt a little bit. What you don't want is a situation to where those ends can go really at you and they know exactly what's coming. So it's going to be imperative for Ole Miss to throw on first down and run on third down. Sometimes it's not going to make a whole bunch of sense. You still need to do it. You need to slow down those ends as much as possible. I'm not just talking about screens and draws. I'm not talking about those type plays. I'm talking about just run the ball. It's 3rd and 7. Run the ball and see what happens. Most of the time when you're playing pass, it can get to you. And Oklahoma really likes to widen out those ends. I think there can be some hay made by Ole Miss by running the ball on third down. Because on third down, they put those ends way out. It's not even a 9 technique at that point. It's they're like 2 cornerbacks playing, and they can get to the spot where the offensive lineman would bounce to in pass protection before the offensive lineman can get there as well. So that's going to mean quick game. That's going to mean quarterback run. I think you will see the quarterback draw. You will see scrambles by Trinidad Chambliss, even though there's likely going to be a spy on him. I think you're going to see Ole Miss going on 2 a little bit. I think you're going to see them vary tempo. I think they're going to do whatever they can to make sure the end can't just understand what's going on. And I'm not sure about the crowd. Now, the rumor is that for the Fiesta Bowl, to get tickets to the Sugar Bowl, you had to also buy the Fiesta Bowl and the national championship game for season ticket holders. That's one of the reasons Ole Miss completely sold out their allotment for this game. I don't know if that's true. It sounds like it could be true, but that makes me wonder what this game on Thursday night will look like. It's not going to look like the Sugar Bowl. The Sugar Bowl was absolutely nuts. The fact that you, to this point, have Georgia fans going, holy cow, that was ridiculous. I've never seen that place look like that, is a testament to Ole Miss fans, if we're going to be completely honest about it and what they did. I do not think they're going to travel to Phoenix in the same numbers, but they are going to travel well. They're going to sell out their allotment. They're going to be loud. They're going to get tickets on the secondary market, and they'll probably outnumber the Miami fans. That would be my guess, but they travel pretty well too, believe it or not. Everybody likes to make jokes about the Hard Rock Stadium and filling it up and all that, but Miami fans, when you get to stuff like this, show up pretty well. So we'll see how this ends up. I'm really curious to see how the defensive line for Miami deals with the hurry up, no huddle of an Ole Miss team that has a run game and has weapons all over the field. There's not really any way you can hide a player against Ole Miss because there's so many good ones for Ole Miss. Even at wide receiver and running back, it's hard to hide players. Now, if you get to the national semifinals, you're probably not hiding players to begin with. But somebody on that defense is the 11th best player. And that 11th best player is going to be matched up against somebody. I don't think that's a guy on a defensive line. I don't think it's a linebacker, but it might be a safety or a corner. And if it's a safety or a corner, Ole Miss is going to figure out a way to put that player in conflict for the majority of the game. Just like Miami is going to do the same thing with Ole Miss. Won't change at all. I'm expecting a hyper physical football game and something that honestly should be a pretty good product for Miami and Ole Miss as well. It's going to be an absolute war. So thank you for tuning in today to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're going to continue to talk about Ole Miss and Miami all week. So make sure you subscribe and follow the show so you can get all the latest episodes. We are on all the social channels, so check us out there as well. And did Locked On Ole Miss make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and they will drop you the code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we're going to send you on over to the first 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you get a second listen, either Locked On College Football or Locked On SEC with Chris Gordy. Hotty toddy, everybody. We're just about 48 hours, something like that, maybe 60 hours away from Ole Miss versus Miami and the biggest game in school history. Either way, hotty toddy, everybody.